Welcome back to another edition of Blitz. Today, I'm going to be doing one Mr. Sauce Gardner before I can hopefully get an AVT review done later. But Sauce Gardner, 52 plays, first two seasons considered an all-pro level player. Had a down season this year. But I would still say he was in the 10 to 15 best corners in the NFL. And Jets fans acting like he's a bum. They should trade him. He's not as good. He's not a good player. He's a guy who like literally set the expectations too high for himself, or he's like a victim of that, because he was still a good corner this year. It was just the fact that again he wasn't an all pro level player. So now he sucks, according to Jets fans, which is obviously crazy. The dude is, easily a top 10 corner in the league, and I think really he's a top three guy. You can have your qualms, one, two, three, four, five. I think you can see that, but he's a top five corner. His again all pro first 2 years, and then his down season. Let's call him the 12th best corner in the NFL. Okay, you know, still obviously very good. And there's some things and I don't know if he's injured. I don't know what happened. There are some times where he's a little bit lazy in his technique. I do want to see, I want to see more consistent, like bend the line of scrimmage, things like that, getting more shuffles in instead of just opening the gate right away for guys. There's some things we'll talk about throughout this review, but let's not be crazy and say this guy is some type of bum. We'll see it throughout the review. Obviously, you guys know I'm fair. So let's kick off the first 53 plays with a press rep at the top right here. This one against Ayuk, really good rep from Sauce. You have some knee bend. You have good width of the feet. You have his eyes nice and low. Patience off the snap, right? Isn't dropping his heels, isn't doing anything like that. Takes a little bit of like a kick step with the right foot. Shoots two hands more aggressively, taking advantage of his length. Sees the exposed chest of Ayuk, lands the right hand in the chest. Doesn't want to get a holding, so lets it go. Stays attached with the left and kind of guides the route, right? Hand into the ribs, which is perfect. Shove him inside, dictate a little bit. Now you have Ayuk trying to get over the top on a corner route. Sauce does a good job of arm barring, looking back for the ball. And what I mean by arm barring is, like, let's say the pass was there. You have Sauce's arm that's over top of Ayuk's arm. So Ayuk's arm's not going to be able to now go up for the pass. So he'd have to make a one-handed reception here if the ball were to be there right now. So really good rep by Sauce. Starting off the review, patience, stance, eyes low, hands landing, taking advantage of length, knowing when to disengage, hand fighting to get the arm bar over the top. Very positive play. Another good rep at play two against Ayuk. Again, in press coverage here. Let's watch. Again, being more aggressive with a two-handed punch here. It's a good job. Kick step with the right, getting lateral. We have Ayuk who stems him outside. Sauce, eyes low. Good stance pre-snap, or decent stance. I could say he can even get more knee bend than he has, but at least good stance in terms of the width. Kick step, shuffle, take advantage of the length, see the chest, take the open chest. Clearly affects Ayuk, right? Maintains contact with the offhand. Grabs a little bit there as he's pushed off, but this is the thing where like the NFL to me is soft because you'll have guys like, oh, Sauce grabbed him at the top there to get himself back on, but then will fail to mention that, yeah, you had Brandon Ayuk who full extension pushed off on him. What is he supposed to do? So it's mutual in my opinion. So people will scream hold here. I'm not screaming hold because then how do you negate what Ayuk did? It's impossible. You'll never win as a corner. So he gets his hands on, slingshots himself back inside, stays on the hip, and is there. Good rep. Sauce pass breakup. Okay. Top of your screen. I think it's on a slant. Inside leverage. A little bit lower this time. Feet, hopefully they're shoulder width apart. They look to be a tiny bit narrow. Could be wrong. A little bit harder on broadcast view, but does a good job of chopping that ball out of there. So Ayuk uses a stretch release, Sauce, patient feet, kick step with the right, gets one shuffle in, but Ayuk breaks the inside, uses his length to get into the chest. to slow Ayuk down. Also, kind of slingshot himself back inside. Again, you have extension from Ayuk, but Sauce is able to fight through it, stay over the top, punch the ball out of the hands. Yeah, and it's hard to match guys when you have full extension like this. Like, what are you supposed to do? So yeah, there's a little bit of separation there, but then the way he comes back or he gets over top of that shoulder and punches that ball out and rips the arm down is excellent. It's an excellent rep by Sauce again. Again, and yeah, there's going to be plays, and specifically in the run game, I think Sauce knows he has to get more physical in the run game. There's plays where he may have not wanted to get engaged and maybe didn't engage in the run game, where at least in the first, in college and even in the first year or two of the NFL, like he's not the best tackler because, he's 6'3", 190. But at least the effort was there. There were some times where the effort wasn't there last year. So need to be at least a willing tackler. Bad tackle here. Okay, so let's see. I'm not even saying that this is not willingness, but in terms of okay, obviously we have a run play here. He's squeezing down he's just squeezing down on the run. Got to come into the run with better control because you're tracking where he is, not where he's going. Where do you think Mason's going to go here? Probably vertically. So, want to cut him off a little bit vertically. Again, not so much where he's going to undercut you. But with that being said, really it's not even really so much the angle here. Let's be honest, because the angle is actually not bad. Kind of watching this back, what's bad is the control. He needs to break down here. You see the big steps, huge steps. You need to come in with urgency, but while also breaking down, so he's not in really control. Jab step to the outside, get vertical, and Sauce barely gets a hand on. Gets a hand on the shin. Got to be in more control there. Yeah, with both urgency and control there. I would like both. Beat on dig too high. OS. I'm not sure what I mean there, but we'll say top of your screen. Yeah. So they look like they're in a quarters coverage. So really anything vertical here. And again, different teams have different rules. 8 yards, 10 yards, 12 yards could be different teams, could be different situations. But you have this you have the number one receiver there pushing 7, 8, 9, 10 yards, and Sauce is kind of just staying over the top but not really matching, in terms of like, staying over the top, gives him too much inside cushion. Gives him too much inside cushion. It'd be really hard for him to break on the ball. Ball is out. He starts to break now. Relatively easy catch. Now, like this is one of those routes where it's not like a 12-yard, 15-yard dig or something like that. So he almost does start breaking like in that gray area. But you know, um, you got to start matching eventually. So I would like to see him one be lower in his stance, right? He's standing pretty much straight up here. And then two, I get wanting to have outside leverage because, you do have inside help. Let's say if it's like like I don't know, well, I don't know if it's a palms, but probably not. But nonetheless, I get wanting to play a little bit more outside leverage to give a safety here. But at a certain point, you can't let yourself be completely outflanked to the inside. Like half a yard, outside, fine. But one, he's high. Two, I think he's a little bit too far outside. And this receiver is yeah. I think he's staring at the quarterback here because he's starting to break to the inside, and Sauce is really late to react to it. So one, a little bit lackadaisical. Again, get over the top of that more. I don't think his eyes are proper. I think his eyes are on Levis and not on the receiver who's clearly showing break here because now the ball is thrown and oh shit, let me react to the inside instead of break. Oh shit, let me react inside. So he's out leveraged a little bit. I like to see him again, just a tiny bit over the top. But again, it's really not even that bad because if he were to react to the break here and get lateral and break on that with a quarter step, then he's fine. So the out leverage is a tiny little part of that, but it's more just, hey, read that break. Like he's clearly breaking there, but he reacts a step too late because he's seemingly staring at the quarterback. I wouldn't think he would see a break and be like, hey, I'm not going to react to that. I'll react to that in a step or two. So I think he's staring at the quarterback there. So, um, you know, uh, obviously, gives up a catch. Okay. Screen game, fake handoff, fake end around, throw it to Pollard. Sauce closed down. I'm fine with the outside and angle, but again, just comes in out of control. It's a relatively aggressive angle outside, but um, again, you're starting to get into that contact window. He's standing straight up, and now he starts to break down. You got to break down earlier. Got to be more control in the run game because I get like if he came down outside in or at the outside angle here, broke down, and then he got a hand on Pollard and didn't tackle. I'm like, okay, I understand it for what Sauce is, but you're talking about 2 yards of separation. Doesn't even get close to him. Beat on and in. Okay. Top of your screen. Press inside leverage versus Hopkins. Okay. And for me with with him and his length and his size, I get he's not the biggest guy in the world in terms of how thick he is, but with a kick step, then he pretty much immediately just gets onto his heels, like throws himself backwards, which gives Hopkins the free inside release all day. And then Sauce goes to match him vertically because he hopped back. So now he has to guard against vertical. So it's a thing where he can't play this too aggressively and squeezing down on this because he has to guard against vertical. So let's say he did squeeze down this aggressively and Hopkins was able to cross his face and get vertical. You don't want that. So he's going to take a more conservative angle to get over the top. And while he's doing that, Hopkins breaks to the inside and beats him on the in route. Why? I just don't like the feet here. I don't like hopping back like that and just giving him the inside. Now you can like kick step and shuffle, but it's the hop back that gets him delayed in matching that. Beat on the end. Sauce beat Lucky TD need to find ball. Oh yeah, I remember this is quite ridiculous. But nonetheless, bottom of your screen. Yeah, it's one of the more ridiculous like catches you'll see. Or not catches, just like plays. I think he starts to look to the inside here and he's squeezing him to the sideline and he thinks that, oh, Clark is going to intercept this ball and look where it falls, hits him in the wrist and he brings it in. Um, Thing with it though is you have, Ridley looking back for 5 yards, 10 yards, and Sauce goes back to look back for the ball, but his eyes are low, right? So again, when you're looking for a ball and yeah, when you're looking for a ball, you don't want your eyes to be shallow. I severely doubt his eyes are up right here because the ball comes in from high to low. So if your eyes go high to low, you naturally can track it and find it. Whereas again, if your eyes are opposite, it's really hard. If you're again ball's coming from high, your eyes start low, the ball's going to cross your face, and you have to retrack it. So you want to start low or start high and then track down because that's the path it's going on. So I don't think he doesn't find the ball. Like I'm okay at this point. Like, hey, you're on him. Look back for the ball here, but he's not able to find it. Looks back for it the other way, and he's not able to make a play on the ball. Now, again, this is pretty ridiculous. Let's be real here. But you'd hope that Sauce would be able to track this better. If he found that ball, it wouldn't be, maybe he could have got the pick instead of relying on another guy to get the pick. A little bit better tracking necessary on that one. Sauce beat deep out leverage. So what he's going to leverage too far inside. Yeah, beat by Hopkins or Ridley. I don't think it's a leverage thing. I think it's a thing where like look how high he is in his back pedal again. I just want to see more sync because and he is a little bit far leverage inside, but you're only talking a yard or two. Like it's really not that bad. It's just there's a lot of motion right here for him to explode to get vertically to match him. And it's a good job by Ridley in terms of, stem towards him, stem outside, do something inside to outside. So now Sauce thinks, oh shit, beat me vertical, and then break to the outside. It's a good stem by Ridley, but I would like to just see Sauce more in control of the lower half. It's a big step and like lunge to get there vertically. Now it's oh shit chase mode. So he's not on him to feel that break. Whereas if he were a little bit lower in his stance and really like knees over toes and backpedaling, he would be quicker to break, and then he'd probably have contact and feel that break and be able to match it. So just high, I more balance in a back pedal. Yeah, you can't just rely on your athleticism to break. Obviously, if you're breaking from lower, you're going to be more compact, and it's going to be a stronger break. Okay, so sauce coverage last place shuffle slingshot. Okay, Cove last play. Okay, I don't know. Let's see. Inside slot right here versus Hopkins. I don't necessarily love the back pedal here. He's playing soft shoe, but there are times where I want to see him to get shuffles in. But kick step, he gets like it's like a quasi back pedal shuffle, so he gets shuffles in there. So they're pretty vertical. Oh, hold on a second. All right, continuing on a little while later. Sauce and Preston slot. I think I already kind of talked about a little bit of this. Um, it's a good job though, in terms of okay, kick step, staying balanced, watching the hips, getting a shuffle in, getting two shuffles in as DeAndre Hopkins sends them to the outside. Hopkins then obviously plants, shoots inside. Sauce lands his hand, which both slows down Hopkins and propels himself inside on the route. Gets hands on the route, looks back to the quarterback, ball's not coming. Good play by Sauce there. There's a few other plays against Hopkins in that game where it was like, him getting pushed off, things like that, that I didn't obviously include. Thought I actually had more from that game, but clearly I didn't. Sauce fake punch, top of your screen. Okay, want to change up. You want to, and we've seen it already where he's done some soft shoe. He's done some more aggressive two-handed punches. Now he's doing fake, which clearly affects or may affect or it probably does actually affect the release because he's using, like a split release because he thinks Sauce is going to be aggressive. Sauce fakes the press and then drops off of it, forcing the route to bow inside. Gets lateral, like in terms of like, running, runs laterally, gets hands on, follows that hip, arm bar, look back for the ball. Good fake press. Patience by Sauce. Okay. Um, Top of your screen and off coverage. Yeah, patience in terms of like I don't love always playing like shuffle and things like that, but looks like they're playing in cover three, and he's playing in a shuffle because you're running against vertical. I really even with a shuffle you have to.